The movie begins with a scene where a giant man, the size of a building, emerges from the ocean in front of a local fisherman. Upon reaching the shore, he shrinks down to human size, changes his clothes, and continues to walk down the streets of New York without drawing attention to himself. Reaching the Empire State Building, he climbs to the rooftop where another man is waiting for him. They begin to talk, and we learn that these two men are none other than Poseidon, the god of water, and Zeus, the god of thunder. Zeus is furious that someone has stolen his most powerful weapon, Zeus's lightning bolt. He thinks it might have been Poseidon or one of his subjects, or Poseidon's son. But Poseidon assures him that it was not them, and warns Zeus that if he lays a finger on his son, he will send him to the depths of Tartarus. Regardless, Zeus threatens to declare war on the whole world if the lightning bolt is not returned by midnight on the summer solstice.
Or there will be war.
The movie takes us to Percy, a high school student who suffers from dyslexia. He is not very popular at his school and leads a normal life with his mother and unbearable stepfather. The only person with whom Percy feels confident enough to share anything is his best friend, Groover.
Every day is the same thing. Look at this.
Percy goes with his class to the museum and listens to Mr. Brunner, who talks about the ancient Greek gods and how sometimes they came down to earth and hung out with mortals. The teacher then asks Percy, what were the children of such unions called? Not knowing what to answer, Percy looks at the Greek name of the exposition and sees the letters rearranged so he can read the name and answers half-gods. Mr. Brunner accepts Percy's answer and continues his story.
Correct.
Miss Dotz calls Percy into the next room to tell him something. The boy reluctantly agrees and follows her. Entering the room and not understanding what she wants to tell him, he doesn't even have time to notice her moving very quickly to the top of the building structures in the room. Percy doesn't understand how his teacher could get up there.
How did you get up there?
But without saying anything, she just jumps right on top of him, turning into some kind of demon. Percy tries to resist, but the flying creature lifts him to the top of ceiling and threatens to kill him unless Percy gives her the lightning. Suddenly, the doors to the hall opens and Mr. Brunner and Groover come to help Percy. They threaten to tear the flying demon apart if it doesn't let Percy go.
Release him or I swear I'll tear you to pieces!
And it really works. The unknown creature throws Percy to the floor, broke the window, and flies out. Percy is shocked and doesn't understand what just happened.
I'm going crazy.
Mr. Brunner and Grover are trying to calm him down. Brunner says that the creature was a Furia who infiltrated the school and took on the guise of Miss Dotz.
What you say? What's a Fury? And why do you say you can tear her to pieces?
He also says that rumors have spread quickly, and Percy is now in danger, and it would be better if Grover helps Percy escape to the camp. Finally, Brunner gives Percy a pen, cautioning him to use it carefully and calling it a very powerful weapon.
This is a pen. This is a pen.
Percy doesn't understand anything and asks a lot of questions that there is no time to answer. But Grover finds the perfect words to convince Percy to follow him. Walking down the street, Groover tells Percy not to trust anyone. When Percy asks why Mr. Brunner ordered Groover to take him to camp, Groover says he is Percy's guard. Percy takes this as a joke because Groover is on crutches.
You have crutches.
But Groover says they won't get in his way, and he's willing to give his life for Percy in case of an emergency. They walk into Percy's home and see the stepfather with his redneck friends disrespecting Percy's mother, Mrs. Jackson. Percy reprimands his stepfather.
Hey, don't talk about my mom like that, you bald-headed freak.
Causing him to jump up to hit Percy. But Groover knocks him out in front of his astonished friends with a couple of strokes. Groover tells Miss Jackson everything that has happened. She quickly understands, and together they decide to leave as soon as possible. Percy, his mother, and Groover go camp by car. While they are on the road, Percy says he doesn't understand and that he didn't steal anything. His mother says that she believes him, and they are going to a camp for unusual children where he will be safe.
With special people, what? Am I crazy or something?
Percy asks her why, and Mom says it is because of his father and starts talking about him. But a cow suddenly appears on the road and interrupts her story. Percy's mother turns the steering wheel sharply and they are involved in a car accident. They come to their senses. Groover pulls down his pants, and beneath them are the legs of a goat. He breaks the window and all three get out of the wrecked car. They notice the Minotaur running at them. The trio realizes that things are bad and they must run. They climb over the fence and run into the woods, and after a couple of minutes, they reach the camp gate. Percy's mother can't get through because she's a simple person, unlike the boys. At this point, the Minotaur catches up with them and grabs Mrs. Jackson. Percy is not ready to lose his mother. He grabs the pen Mr. Brunner gave him and it turns into a sword right in his hands. But fucking Minotaur squeezes Miss Jackson in his hand and she turns to ash right in front of her son.
What you say?
Percy is furious. He tries to attack the Minotaur with his sword, but it can't even damage the monster's thick skin. The Minotaur throws him into a tree and tries to kill him with its horns. Percy dodges and notices a piece of the monster's horn stuck in the tree. He pulls the horn out of the tree and stabs the monster in the chest. Percy loses consciousness. Percy wakes up in the camp infirmary. He is immediately met by Groover, who tells him that Percy has been unconscious for 3 days. Percy doesn't understand where he is.
What is this place?
And by remembering previous events, he thinks it was a dream. But when he sees Groover's legs, he realizes the scale of the ass he is in.
Yeah.
Groover gives Percy a tour of the half-breed camp and leads him to the valley, where Percy learns that Mr. Brunner is a centaur.
Wait a minute. Is that Mr. Brunner?
It turns out that his name is Chiron. He continues Groover's story about the camp and leads Percy to the lakeside house. Chiron says that Percy's father built this house for him. He goes on to say that the boy's father is Poseidon. Percy is full of emotion, remembering the death of his mother. He doesn't understand what he is doing here and what will happen next.
Why am I even here?
Chiron calms him down and tells him that Percy is in danger and everyone thinks that Percy stole Zeus' lightning bolt and someone is using him to start a war. If Zeus' lightning bolt will not be returned by the summer solstice, the whole world Percy knows will become a battlefield and be destroyed in the War of Gods. Chiron says he will take Percy to Olympus and prove the boy's innocence. But first, he needs to train because outside the gates there is a world that wants to kill him. The centaur leads Percy to the half-breeds and explains all the rules of the upcoming training session. They must divide into 2 teams, a blue team and a red team. Each team has a flag. They must capture the flag of the enemy team and bring it to the assembly point to win. They divide into teams and the captain of the blue, a son of Hermes named Luke, takes Percy to his team. The battle begins. Percy and Luke fight off the red team members, but there are too many of them. Luke decides to hold them off and orders Percy to leave him and find the flag.
Get out of here! Go look for the flag!
As he walks to the river to wash up on the other side of the river, he notices an enemy flag and rushes to get it. But Annabeth gets on his way and says Percy cannot take the flag so easily. They begin to fight, but Annabeth easily overpowers Percy, wounding him by sword into the arm, leg, and face. Percy hears his father's voice in his head telling him to stay close to the water.
The water will give you power.
With the last of his strength, he crawls to the river and puts his arm into the water. The water washes away Percy's wounds, giving him strength, and Percy rises to his feet. Annabeth and Percy battle again, but this time the boy defeats her and takes the flag. Blue team triumphs. In the evening, a feast is held at the rebel camp. The girls, impressed by Percy's strength, try to talk with him, but Annabelle drives them away and they start a dialogue. Their conversation is interrupted when suddenly the spirit of Hades appears from the campfire. He starts to attack the camp and demands Percy to show himself. Percy draws his sword and comes out to Hades trying to protect his friends. Hades demands the lightning bolt of Zeus, stating that Percy's mother is alive and in his possession. Percy tries to say he doesn't have the lightning bolt, but Hades just disappears. Percy realizes that he can't do anything and decides to leave the camp, find a way to hell, and save his mother, but Groover notices him and refuses to let the boy go alone. They decide to go on a search together. They realize that they do not know how to get to hell. Annabeth hears this and says she can help, but in exchange, the boys will take her with them. They have no choice but to agree. Annabeth takes them to Luke, son of Hermes. They ask him for help, and he asks them about their plans and tells that getting into hell is no easy task, but it's even harder to get out. He says that you can only get out by using the pearls of Persephone. There is only 3 of them hidden around America, just in case. Luca gives Percy sneakers with wings so he can fly and a shield so the guy can defend himself during battle. In return, he asks the trio to kick his father's ass if they meet him along the way. The first jewel is on a ranch nearby. The guys get to the ranch in the morning and go inside. They call the owner, but no one is there. The trio decides to split up and search for the pearl.
Okay, let's split up. Check everything.
Suddenly, a woman catches up with Annabeth. She says some woman killed her husband and asks for help. The frightened woman drags the girl with her and they go out into the square and bump into a woman with black glasses.
Well, this is a fabulous surprise.
Annabeth realizes that they are facing Medusa and tells the woman to close her eyes, and she does so. Gorgon removes her headdress and glasses, and we see snakes instead of her hair. She approaches her victims and tricks them into opening their eyes. The old woman cannot stand the pressure, opens her eyes, and turns into a statue. Annabeth cannot escape as the statue of the old woman firmly holds her hand. Percy and Groover come to Annabeth's aid. They know he can't look at Medusa, and Percy realizes that they can look at her through her reflection. Meanwhile, the Medusa has almost managed to force Annabeth's eyes, but Percy jumps out from behind the cover and screams,
Beth, don't open your eyes!
The Gorgon Medusa runs after him. Jackson hides behind a statue. The Medusa approaches him, but Percy tricks her, sneaks baying her back, and cuts off the Gorgon's head with a swing of his sword. The boys help Annabeth to free herself. They find the pearl in the bracelet on Medusa's arm and decide to take her severed head, arguing that her eyes still work and they may need it. The whole trio gets to Nashville and goes to the exact replica of the Parthenon because the map indicates that the second pearl is located here. They enter the Parthenon and see a 20-meter statue of Athena. On Athena's head and a crown they notice the pearl. They decide to hide in the restroom and wait for the museum to close. When they come out of the restroom, they notice the janitors washing the floor right in front of the statue of Athena. Annabeth cleverly puts them to sleep with a crossbow loaded with sleeping arrows. Percy puts on the sneakers with the wings that Luke gave him, flies up and takes the pearl. Just as they are about to leave, the guards block the path of the trio.
We've been expecting you, Mr. Jackson.
The guards turn into a hydra. The hydra attacks them and trio decides to hide behind the pillars. Percy Jackson rushes into battle with the monster. He flies up to the hydra and cuts off its heads one by one with his sword. But the situation only gets worse, because after cutting off one head, the hydra immediately grows two heads in its place. Friends begin to lose. Percy uses his ability to control water to distract the hydra, and Groover gets close and turns it into a statue with Medusa's head. Trio leave the Parthenon safe and sound. Trinity looks at the map. The last pearl of Persephone is in Las Vegas, somewhere inside the Lotus Casino. They get to Las Vegas and enter the casino. They are greeted by very gracious waitresses and offered to eat a local dish, the lotus flower. The guys are very hungry. They eat the lotus and fall into a trance. Suddenly, they forget all their goals and just have fun at the Groover Casino, from dancing on stage to relaxed session in the spa to wasting their money by playing roulette and blackjack. Suddenly, Percy hears his father's voice again.
No, Percy. Don't eat the flower.
Percy listens to the voice and tries to figure out what is going on. He realizes that the lotus contains some kind of mind-altering drug. Percy finds his friends and tells them they need to get out. A chase by Cadino's stuff begins after them. Getting away from the guards, Percy notices that the jewel is a roulette ball. He grabs the ball and the friends flee in the prize car from the booth. Once out of the casino, they realize it's been 5 days. They all thought they'd spent no more than an hour in the Lotus Casino. Tomorrow is the day of the summer solstice. Trio must hurry up. Map is saying that Hades are in Hollywood. It will take about 4 hours for the guys to get there. Driving into California hills, where a storm is brewing, they look again at the map and see that the road to hell is right next to the Hollywood sign in the mountains. They get to the letters, found a cave, and enter it. At the cave, they are met by a man in a boat, who introduces himself as Charon and says that he is the one who ferries dead people to hell. They ask him to deliver them, but he does not agree, saying that he only transports dead ones. They decide to bribe him with gold drachmas they find in the fountain at Medusa's estate. Charon agrees, and the three of them climb into the boat. As they fly over hell in the boat, they hear the screams of people burning in infinite flame. Charon delivers them to Hades' place. They go into a gates, but the trio is surrounded by Cerberus. But Persephone appears from the middle of nowhere and subdues the dogs. She asks why the trio came. After finding out the reason and the guy's motivation, she leads them to Hades. Hades appears to the trio as a rocker. He teleports Percy's mother to him and asks the boy to give him the lightning bolt, but upon learning that Poseidon's son did not steal it, he becomes enraged. Percy Jackson defends himself from Hades with the shield, but Hades' hit was too hard and the shield flies right under Hades' feet. The Lord of Hell notices that something is hidden in the shield. It turns out to be Zeus' lightning bolt. The boys understand that it was Luke who stole the lightning and framed Percy. Hades traps Percy, Annabeth, and Groover by Cerberus and picks up the lightning bolt. He realizes that with such a strong weapon he will become a king of gods. But Persephone distracts Hades. She snatches the lightning bolt and turns its power against him. All she wants is the occasional escape from hell. But if the war of the gods happens, the world will be destroyed and she will have nowhere to escape. She will remain forever with Hades in hell. Persephone saves the boys and gives them the lightning bolt. But it turns out that the guys only have 3 pearls, and now there are 4 of them. They realize that someone will have to stay in hell. After a long conversation, Groover says that it's his duty as a guard to protect Percy and his family, so he will stay. Reluctantly, the guys say goodbye and use the pearls to transport themselves to the entrance into the Olympus. They find themselves on the roof of the Empire State Building. Mrs. Jackson points way to the elevator. Back in time, she was here with Poseidon. They run to the elevator, but Luke appears. He says that he hates gods because his father abandoned him and for that he wants the gods to kill each other. He lunges at them and Percy is forced to fight. Annabelle tries to help him, but the bow knocks the lightning bolt out of Percy's hands and flies away. Jackson knocks him down and they both turn out in downfall from continuing to fight in the air. The son of Poseidon manages to take the lightning bolts away from Luke, but he catches up to Percy and cuts the wings on his sneakers. Percy falls to the roof of nearby buildings and drops the Zeus lightning bolt. Luke picks it up again. Percy, controlling the water from the water towers with his ability, manages to defeat Luca. He picks up the lightning bolt and returns to Annabeth and his mother. They run into the elevator which transported them to the Olympus. Mrs. Jackson cannot get out of the elevator. There is the same barrier as at the entrance to the camp. She remains waiting for Annabeth and Percy in the elevator. On the top of Olympus, the gods argue with each other. They are all ready for war, and the day of the summer solstice arrives. But at the last moment, Annabeth and Jackson manage to run into the room. They give Zeus the lightning bolt, and the thunderbolts sweep over Olympus. War is averted. Percy Jackson tells Zeus that Luke stole the lightning bolt so the gods could kill each other. Zeus is kind and praises Percy Jackson. He allows Percy to ask him anything. The guy asks to bring his friend Groover back to this world. Zeus does this and leaves. Percy returns to normal life and decides to go back to camp. His mother drives him to the camp and says goodbye, taking Percy's word that he will visit her. At the camp, Percy meets his friend Groover, who happily shows him what has changed at the camp. Everyone has heard of Percy's accomplishments, and he is now a local hero. If you enjoy this story, we kindly ask you to subscribe to 912 Studio, push the like button, leave a comment, and share it with your family and friends. Let's continue the dialogue and make sure that we never forget the valuable lessons of the past. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we can't wait to share more captivating stories with you in the future. Until the next time.